My name is Greg Holden. I am here with my wife, Peggy Lester in Chicago, Illinois. We are coordinators along with Stephanie Anderson of the Heartland Law of One group. Heartland is not a place geographically, but it's a place here. And many of us do live in the Midwest of the United States, but really we are happy and blessed to be joined by people from all over the world today who come to ask our guest Jim McCarty questions about the Law of One. So we welcome you, Jim. A Heartland group meets every other Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. We meet for about 90 minutes. And our group is based on the text, Reading the Rock Contact. We discuss and ask questions as they come up in our reading. And one thing that I don't know if this distinguishes our group from others, but we love each other. We've gotten to be such a good family in a short period of time, and we look out for each other, and we really care about each other. And to me, that's one thing that's the Heartland. So I would like to start with a question of my own. I see now the advantage of having the questions in the chat, because my original question, Jonathan was going to ask something very similar. So I'm going to hold off on my original question. I would like to ask this one, Jim. So I'm a reader of your blog in the Camelot Journal on the Bring Forth website. I am a dedicated reader. I'm a fan. And in one of your blog posts, you mentioned that our catalysts can be designed by our guides and by the logos, the sun. And I was wondering if you could say more about how the sun designs catalysts for us.
Well, any entity such as our sun or our higher self or guides, or when we become conscious of the process, we can do, has you might say, a life plan involved, so that there is a certain base from which to build another life pattern, considering what has been accomplished previously. If the signposts have been put into place reincarnatively in the past life, have not been successfully looked at and practiced and learned, then whether it's the logos, our sub-logos, the sun, or our higher self, or one of our guides, or a combination, then will help us to make another plan that will have more likelihood of being instituted or utilized in our upcoming incarnation. Then the subconscious mind has this knowledge at its disposal, so that as we enter the incarnation and begin to move through our spiritual journeys, after we become conscious of that journey, then it biases the catalyst that we experience, so that we look at it through a certain lens that gives us a better chance of being able to use that catalyst in a way that will propel us along our spiritual path. And the catalyst, Ross said, in many cases, has some kind of trauma involved with it, because there is this beginning realization that we are some part of the Creator. We don't know, perhaps in the beginning, how much. So we need to have a little help from our subconscious mind to let us know how to look at some catalyst. So that seems to be the general outline. And Ross suggested that once we become aware on a conscious basis during the incarnation of this process, then we can become part of it. We can make those plans ourselves. And so that's basically the way it works.
It almost sounds like you can plan your own catalyst. Is that possible? Am I not understanding?
Yeah. Once you become conscious of the process, and usually there's also some help from guides or higher self, but when you become conscious of it, then that is something that you can do. And when Don found that out, he said, well, how would that work? Wouldn't sometimes a student begin to choose too many lessons?
Yeah.
And Ross suggested, yes, that's one of the difficulties of choosing your own catalyst. You, well, shall we say, bite off more than you can chew sometimes.
That actually was a phrase of my guru, my Buddhist teacher. Don't bite off more than you can chew. He always said that. And then, boy, was that true with catalyst. For me, a lot of the catalyst is fear-based and worry-based. I did something wrong, something bad is going to happen. Does that have to do with the red ray chakra, or is that another center? Or is just red ray just survival?
I would say that there's a good chance that fear could begin in the red ray, because that's survival and sexual reproduction. And once you're not involved in feeling the necessity of looking at your daily round of activities through those lenses, then the fear is more likely being in either the orange ray of the unique nature of yourself, your eccentricities, and who you are as one individual being, or in the group energies, where you would blend with other orange ray entities to form the yellow ray group. And as I mentioned before, Ross suggested that a lot of the catalyst we have comes from trauma, and fear would certainly be a portion or an aspect of trauma. So the fear, I would suggest, is something that everybody has to deal with at some point in their life pattern, depending upon the choices you've made pre-incarnatively. And fear can be something that you work with in order to see that what it was you were feared in yourself or in someone else or in a situation is something that you can grow from, so that the fear can be worked with till there is a realization of a broader point of view, that whatever it was you were fearing can be seen from another aspect, so that it can be utilized more likely, instead of maybe ignoring it or running away from it or not working with it. So fear can be used to grow. It's grist for the mill, like every other kind of catalyst.
Yes.
Once we work with it, then we can go on. It can become a stepping stone on the journey, and we don't have to work with the nature of fear as it was manifesting before.
Yeah. I think it's so important to hear your perspective. So I thank you, because the fear is the big thing of our time. I think, I mean, it's so, for so many people, this is a time of fear in so many ways. So if we can become conscious of it and use it as a stepping stone, as you say, that would be so helpful to the whole world. So thank you. So, oh, by the way, I see our wonderful co-coordinator Stephanie is joining us from her car, from Gary's car, I think, and she's frozen right now. But they're on their way up to Susanna. So we send them love and light and safe travels. Hi.
Good to feel your presence, Stephanie.
Yeah, it is.
You want to say something? I see you have your hand raised too, or you're just waving hi. All right, well, if you want to jump in. So the first question comes from Virginia Malik. And I ask Virginia to unmute, and please go ahead and speak.
Did we lose her?
No, she's down there.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So I accidentally lost connection somehow, and I joined back in. I don't have the question in front of me. Could you read it for me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly. The question was asked to Ra regarding homosexuality. And basically it was said, I could have misunderstood, but it was said that homosexuality has to do with the person potentially having been the opposite gender more than 65% of their past lives. There was more on energy fields and highly pull-up areas and such.
Populated areas, sorry.
That was the summary. My best friend is gay, and I thought she might be interested in hearing this. I thought she might enjoy it, but she may be offended. Rather, she's offended.
Yeah.
She asks, why does there have to be a reason? Why is there no reason people are straight? And then she said it might have to do with past lives. Anyway, that's the gist. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, like she just felt there's no reason given why people are straight. Why does there have to be a reason that people are gay? Why can't you just be gay? And I felt I must have said something incorrectly or didn't translate it to her, because it's my understanding that we're like, homosexuality, there's no issue with it. It's just an experience or a memory to take back to the infinite creator. So I thought maybe Jim could expand more on this, or if he ever touched more on this. I haven't gotten to it yet, just so I could explain to her better.
I will say that our questioning in that area should have been more extensive. The information we got was incomplete and distorted, I believe. Whether there is any connection between past lives, how many lives you had as a male or a female that would affect your choices in the upcoming incarnation, I think that's probably up to each individual to use that however they want to use it. And we have had a lot of questions about this over time because it's an area that is very much in the public attention these days, as children that are transgender or one way or another are not being given the attention they need in the schools. There are laws passed against giving them a chance to make this choice by having some medications applied so they can wait to make the choice. So we have had a fellow, we've had 2 or 3 people that have written essays, and I believe you can find them on our website, www.llresearch.org. And they have tried to figure out what we're always really talking about, why there would be any kind of effect if you're in an urban area as opposed to a rural area. And I think that they've done a good job, better than I can do. And I would suggest you check our website out and read those essays. And all I can say again is this is the most questionable and objectionable part of the raw contact. And we have not, in these later days, back when we had the raw contact 42 years ago, we didn't know that there was so much that meant a lot to people about that. So we didn't go into more detail. We should have, and I wish we had.
Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Oh, I see Don Adkins has his hand up. Don, you want to say something of immediate concern? Maybe a response to
it's not it was just a question. I guess I should have put it in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great. Put it in the chat. Okay. You can. I do see on Jonathan's group, sometimes people raise their hands when they have something they want to contribute immediately to a comment. So, okay, next one is Mike.
All right, let me unmute here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Jim, I can't say enough how thrilled I am to meet you, and just my gratitude for everything you've contributed to all of our developments. We wouldn't be here without your participation. Chuck and I obviously got into this because we belonged to a UFO group 10 years ago, and we decided that it was too much about lights in the sky and who saw what and where was the meaning behind all this. And then we stumbled upon Law of One. And so we have so much more meaning as to the global multiverse, multiple densities, multiple worlds. But now coming almost full circle back to where we started, you said you didn't watch the news, but in the last year, there's just been this plethora of UFO sightings and governments disclosure, new groups being formed, government support groups being formed, that people, Air Force officials can come out and admit what they've seen without being shamed. And in the UFO world, of course, there's a whole drip, drip, drip. Is there going to be one big disclosure, or is it going to be over time? Number one. And number two, I thought it was very interesting when Don thought early on, maybe one way to draw people to the law of one messaging was through the UFO phenomenon, because that's what piqued people's interest. So I wonder what you thought about that, in general, as an idea that, I don't know how many of us came to law of one through UFO interest, or that was just mine and Chuck's path. Number one. Number two, since you don't watch the news, are you aware of all the new disclosures? And do you think there's some big disclosure coming, or some multiple small disclosures coming?
There's a lot of aspects to this question.
Sorry.
I am familiar with the disclosure because of what I've heard from other people. Let me start back with Don. Don was 17 years old when a fellow that he was taking flying lessons from here in Louisville, Captain Tom Mantell, was killed while chasing a UFO. And he tried to go, he had a P-51 World War II fighter plane, didn't have oxygen in it. So when he went past 20,000 feet chasing the UFO, he passed out, suffered hypoxia, and died. So that was the beginning of Don's journey, spiritual seeking. He wanted to know, was there advanced intelligence? Were there, entities in the universe beyond what we are? Who created the universe? So how did this all work? So for the rest of his life, for 25 years, he investigated UFOs to try to put the puzzle pieces together. So that's why Don got started with that. But there was also more information that came through. In 1961, he became familiar with some information that was channeled from a group in Detroit. Walt Rogers was channeling a group called Haton. They said that they were fourth density beings, and that if they wanted to, they could give the Detroit group information about their spiritual nature, that they were inhabitants of what we called UFOs. So this information they got is what we had come to determine as the Brown Notebook. And this was the beginning of the channeling process that Don had, so that this UFO interest he had was connected to the channeling process. Now, fast forward to about 6 years ago, we have a friend in Philadelphia who had CIA connections. And he said his CIA friend told him that information about UFOs was located in various departments of the federal government, that no one department had all the information.
Wow.
So that eventually there was going to be a collaboration of all the departments would share what they knew, so it would start to make sense. Now, I don't know if that's what's happening now, or if we're still getting some from one department, some from another, but there does seem to be more freedom to talk about it without just, suffering any type of ridicule.
Single speaker.
So then there is also the aspect that Ross suggested, that UFOs could be seen as a beginning means for the spiritual journey to start for a person that saw a UFO. They would begin to ask some of the same questions that Don did. So as far as the Confederation of Planets and the Service of the Infinite Creator is concerned, which is what Ra is part of, that is the reason for positively oriented UFOs to be seen in our skies, for those who have eyes to see, in quotes. Now, there are also negatively oriented UFOs that have their own goals and agendas. And Ra also suggested that most of the UFOs that were seen at the time of the Ra contact were negatively oriented from the Orion group. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, like I said, there's a lot that goes to it.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I understood.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. Next one, Susanna has a question about channeling.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I was just interested in hearing more about your personal experience of channeling, when you started, and what those early attempts or years were like for you, what it felt like to channel, in your mind, in your body, how you started to differentiate between your own thoughts and what you learned later to trust as the message coming through.
Well, I first learned to channel when I was with Don and Carla during the Raw Contact. The Raw Contact started in January 15th, 1981. And I actually learned to channel in, I believe it was September of 1980, when I was living in the country and driving to Louisville every Sunday night to attend their public meditations. They also had Wednesday meditations where people could be taught to learn how to channel. And in those days, we did not have the criteria for the process of channeling that Carla later developed in 2008, which is much more detailed and much more likely to give you the feeling that you were actually channeling whoever you thought you were channeling. So back when I learned it, it felt to me like I was doing something I'd never done before, which was getting some sort of a telepathic contact. I didn't feel then, as I don't feel now, that I'm particularly psychic, that this was something that I was taking on faith, and that if I simply spoke the words that were given to me, that more words would follow. And that's what turned out. And I was really pretty excited about that. I thought that it was a step forward in my spiritual journey. It was a way of being of service to people by sharing Confederation philosophy, as we call it now. But in those days, it was something that was more taken on faith rather than the process that Carla, devised later on, much later on. And fortunately, it seems to have worked. I took it on faith, and here I am still doing it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for your question. Good to see you, Susanna.
Well, as coordinator, I will take advantage of my role and have a follow-up. And Jim, do you think that possibly some people are kind of meant to be channels, and maybe that's how you got into it the way you did? Or is everybody a potential channel?
Well, in general, I think we all channel our life experiences. You don't really know what's coming next. You just have to kind of play it by ear, which is another way of looking at channeling. Although I think that as far as people being meant to be channels, that may be a pre-incarnative choice or something along that line, that you want to share a spiritual philosophy. Maybe it be through channeling, maybe it be through your own personal experience of how you live your life. Maybe you would teach it. Maybe you would write a book. I really don't know if, I really don't know.
I'm going to jump in with a follow-up question too. So can you speak a little bit to how you developed your faith over the years and what you continue to do now to maintain that faith?
Well, I think that faith is something that can become a tool for spiritual growth. And I think it starts with setting an intention for how you want to live your life, the best way you know to live your life, whether you're a Buddhist and you study the Buddhist teachings, whether you're Islam, Hindu, Judaism, it doesn't really matter. I think that we all have something inside ourselves. I think we have the veil of forgetting here that keeps us from seeing the true nature of reality. And that is what is supposed to help us make this choice of being service to others or service to self, to make a choice, to go into the next density. Because you've made that choice, you've polarized your consciousness. But I think that the way you decide, however, to live your life, then you need to have faith in that attention, that intention, so that it becomes the path that you travel. And the faith takes you along that path, and along the way, you get drawn to you from this knowing inside that all of us have. The Creator is there, and in some way wants us to know itself, and we want to know ourselves, and we want to know the Creator, so that faith becomes the strengthener of the journey, the arrow that points the way. And as we continue to travel that journey, we continue to use faith to assess any new information that comes to us, so that we can use it as part of the puzzle we're putting together. This journey of seeking the one Creator, being a conscious spiritual seeker of truth, and that whole process of seeking and finding is a result of the faith that we have and the intention we set for that path we travel.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan is next. He wants to ask about what I wanted to ask, which was meditation. So Jonathan can say it.
We're using telepathy.
I know. All the time.
So my question is, like, how do you meditate? What is your meditation routine or schedule? And while you're meditating, are you doing are you doing Kriya Yoga? Are you using visualizations? I would just be curious to know, like, what you're doing. What is your meditation practice and schedule?
Okay, my meditation practice changed after Carla passed away about 8 years ago. And the way it occurred was that I saw her various numbers of times in dreams. And in one dream, she made a contact with what I would call an inner aspect of my own being, which gave me a suggestion as to how I could meditate in order to utilize the opening of my indigo ray chakra that happened in 1972 when I was studying how to do such a thing. And the process worked for me. So then also later on, the violet ray opened. So this process that was given to me is a process of continuing to not just activate, but intensify the indigo ray and violet ray chakras. And this is for the purpose of eventually doing what we all hope to do on our own spiritual path, and that is to become one with the infinite Creator. And I've been using this technique now for the last 7+ years. And I can feel the accentuation of both of those energy centers or chakras. And I think this is a process that will take time. And so that's my way of meditating. I think there are as many ways to meditate as there are people. And that whatever feels of most resonance with you as you try various ways is probably the way that would be best for you. Or using your own intuition or prayer. I think that's a way of finding out from our guides maybe what the best way to do. Because Don asked Ra, is there a best way to meditate? And Ra said, no. Very short answer. I think it's up to each of us to determine that.
Oh, I can't hear you. Anything else, Jonathan? You're muted.
Oh, no, I was just shaking my head. Yes. So that, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. Thank you for your question.
One thing I know about your practice, your daily practice, Jim, is that it is extensive. You meditate several times a day and several hours a day. Is that true?
Yes. My first meditation is 4 a.m, because I'm an early riser and early to bed too. And it's usually for about an hour and a half. And the next meditation is about an hour. And then there's 4 more throughout the day that are about half hour.
So I guess I would ask, since you've been doing that, that routine, what changes have you seen in yourself? Have you become a calmer person, more focused, better channel, any of that?
I think the meditation has been kind of like a guidepost for my life. I think if I can continue the meditative feeling through the day and just accentuate it when I actually meditate, it's the way that helps me to live my life in a more harmonious way, a more loving way, and more fun too.
Well, I see that. I verify that. I'm a witness. Okay, next is Ishan. He wanted to ask a question about any practices for the energy body. Can you say more, Ishan?
Hello, Jim.
Hello,
First
Ishan.
of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude, for your service and your being in such groups and your sharing of yourself in the service. I seriously appreciate your efforts in coming on these groups and, being the service to the creator. And then I have this question regarding this energy bodies, as I was doing this practices for lucid dreaming, and I see that whenever I do this practices for energy bodies in my meditation, I had better lucid dreams, and then I recall that the disciplines of body from the Ra, which said as just getting a sense of the subtle energy pathways through the body, and as you sense, you energize all aspects, so and so. And regarding this, my question and conclusion is, how is this what is the best practices for stimulating this energy body health, first of all? And then the second part of the question is regarding that this, how it is related to lucid dreams and how it can help in that, if you have any comments on that.
Well, as far as how the energy body and its activation and utilization affects vivid dreaming, I do not know. I think it's a wonderful thing that it has done that for you, because I think dreaming for me throughout my life has been one way of discovering more about how my spiritual journey could be enhanced and what was happening on my journey and the way that I should continue going. So if working with your energy body has helped that, I think that's wonderful. I have not experienced that myself. For the energy body, I think that what each of us needs to do, and what is the journey of our lifetime here on Earth and in third density, is to begin to work with all of our energy centers, our chakras, and to try to open them and activate them. We have to do that. Well, the red, the survival and sexual reproduction, is not something we really work on. We just look at catalysts sometimes in that way. But we do work on the orange ray of the individual self, the relationships, 1, 2, and 1, and the group of the yellow ray of putting ourselves into groups and functioning there, so that we have this choice that we're beginning to make of service to others being activated and enhanced in those two. And if that's done in a way that is of service to others, and we begin to make that choice of service to others, then we can get into the green ray, the loving of unconditional love of other people. And this is where we can begin to, as Ross said, springboard into the higher centers of a communication of the throat chakra, the blue, and the indigo, the gateway to intelligent infinity. If we work on all of these chakras or energy centers, then our energy body becomes more fully activated, so that we begin to perceive more of the creator around us and within us, and see the world in a different way, so that we become more and more one with the creator. This is the slow process in the third density, but we do begin that process here. And the green ray, if we can learn how to give unconditional love 51% of the time, then we can make the graduation or the harvest to the fourth density. So anything after that, as far as working with the energy body, is the work of what Ra called the adept, the one who wishes to go beyond the graduation or the harvest, and to create works in consciousness, to begin to become a magical being that has more ability to discover the creator within and to share the creator with others around one in one form or another. And how we each do that is unique to each of us. So in general, that would be my response.
Thanks a lot, Jim. I really like that, doing the work of the adepts, like working with the consciousness. And I really like that thing. And my recent practices with lucid dreaming, I had become for a short span, very short periods of lucidity in my dreams. And that is really amazing. It seems too much real, like this world. And if you become lucid in the dream, you can see the illusory aspect of the reality.
Yeah.
And exactly. And I would like to have my follow-up question regarding that. In the law of one material, raw material, there has been mentions of energy bodies, which are like astral bodies, light bodies, ethereal bodies. Can you give comments on that regarding that energy bodies question that I have just asked?
Well, we got some information about the astral body, which is connected with the green ray energy center. That's the body which we apparently go to right after we drop our body, our physical body, and walk into the light. The astral body is something also during the incarnation. You can use that to what they call astral project, and to travel outside of your body so that your spirit is actually that part of your body that is making a journey elsewhere for whatever reason you have set for making that journey. It's something that I've certainly not ever had any experience with, so I can tell you more about just the theory of it. The devacanic body was supposedly connected with the blue ray energy center. It's something that is a layer of understanding that is beyond what we normally have in the third density illusion, a means by which we can perceive higher levels of reality and become able to become students of those levels so that we enhance our spiritual journey in that aspect. And other than that, I don't have any more information about the various bodies that we got just a little bit of information on in the raw contact.
I really, really appreciate your responses. This will help me so.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it helps. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I admire your success with lucid dreaming, Isha. Next, we have a question from Bill Blackham.
Yes, we've been discussing the higher self in the Seattle group, and from mostly I can gather the higher self is more of the guidance system than anything. And in the Confederation literature, it tells us like when we surrender, we're surrendering to the creator within. So, and then we got guides and helpers and other beings that can help us. But what's the differentiation between, say, the higher self, the creator within, and then we have the creator itself in that energy field? So could you speak to the differentiation?
I believe that the creator within and the creator of the universe are the same creator, because we are all made by the creator out of the creator so that it can know itself. And that's the whole reason for the creation. So within ourselves, we also have other guides. Ross suggested we had a male guide, a female guide, and an androgynous guide. And then there's also the higher self. That is another type of guidance. And this type of guidance seems to be something that is more pervasive or all expanding. The higher self is supposedly located at mid-6th density. And the higher self helps us in, as I said before, programming or making pre-incarnative choices. And it can also communicate to us during the incarnation if we open a pathway to it to get what you would call intuition or guidance that would help us to make this spiritual journey more effectively. Also, after the incarnation, the guidance, the higher self provides what's called the review and healing of the incarnation. I mentioned something about missing the guideposts. So when we would be after the incarnation with the higher self, then we could see what we did well what did not turn out so well, something that may need healing. There might be some experience that we had that we caused some other entity harm, or some harm was caused to us. Whichever it is, it would need some healing, and that can be provided by the higher self. So the higher self has a number of functions, and it also has what could be called its own higher self that is located in the seventh density. The mind, body, spirit complex totality is the higher self's higher self. So the seventh density is the density of foreverness. So the mind, body, spirit complex totality can aid the higher self by giving all the information that it has gained on its journey through seven densities, now becoming one with the creator, to the higher self. So the higher self can learn from the mind, body, spirit complex totality and share those learnings with us as we are able to make contact with it during our incarnation, or before the incarnation, or after the incarnation.
So the higher self and the creator within are different entities.
In one, basically, yes, but
Okay.
since we're all one,
Right.
and all is the creator, that's also the same thing. So,
Paradox.
yes.
I'm reminded of the Marx Brothers joke about a paradox, but I will skip that. I can never tell jokes very well. NS has a question about, well, I'll let NS ask her own question. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, this is lovely to see you, Jim. This is Nidhi from India. Actually, my question was that we are all are learning, and also we are teaching Law of One, and we are practicing the teachings. But still, what else we can do, to truly be connected with the Ra? But as you already answered in last two questions, if you can add in this more, I would love to listen from you. Thank you.
Now, could you tell me your question again? I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, as we all are learning and teaching simultaneously, side by side, the teachings of Ra, what would we all can do more in this regard, so that we can check ourselves that we are really connected with Ra?
Okay, so basically how to live the law of one?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, I think that is something that is an individual choice. We're all unique individuals. We all have a spiritual path that is like unto no other spiritual path. And I think going back to setting an intention for how you want to live your spiritual journey is a way to discover how to live the law of one and how to make it come alive in your own spiritual life, the life you live every day. That is the daily round of activities, what you're doing, no matter what you're doing. It may seem like if you're at the grocery store shopping and you're connecting with another person there for just a minute with, well, how are you doing? Here, you dropped this orange on the floor. Here, would you like me to pick it up for you and give it to you? Anything you do on your spiritual path or in your daily round of activities can be a way of being of service to others and living the law of one. Basically, being of service to others, making that choice and carrying that choice out in whatever you do, in something that is small or large, is a manifestation of that energy of love that wishes to flow through you in a positive sense and be of service to others. So it's a matter of individual choice, and it's a choice that we constantly make. We don't make the choice to be of service to others or to live the law of one just one time. It's a choice that we continue to make in everything that we do throughout our day. And that, I think, is the best way to live the law of one. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan has a question. Susan Kelly.
Hi, I put it in the chat, the written part, but what it is, do other people feel like Law of One is a part of them? And like, I knew it. So many things I've come across in Law of One, whether it's what Jim says today, other people are saying, what has been written, most of it is, I knew it. I knew that. And also it's giving me a lot of new, wonderful new things to think about. So it feels familiar. So that's my question. Did it feel like that to you, Jim, when you started? I know you probably can't speak for Carla and Dawn, but that feeling like now it's unfolding.
Yes, I would think that's probably the most common response that people have to the Law of One. It's like a letter from home. And it is something that they've known all their lives. And I have a hunch, this is just my opinion, that the reasons that so many people feel that is that they are wanderers and they've come here to Earth to be of service to others in some way that is also unique. And so as wanderers, they're very familiar with the Law of One and all the information we got during the raw contact. And then Carla mentioned that for people who begin to study the Law of One and go through it a few times, that as you grow spiritually, that the Law of One will be more able to give you different layers of understanding or a perception and how to look at the Law of One. That all of a sudden you will seem to be discovering things that you didn't discover the first or second time that you read it. But now the third or fourth time, there it is. And now it makes sense, whereby the first time through, you maybe just skimmed over it. So the more times you read it and use it in your life, the more information it has for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Raquel would like to ask a question about Carla.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jim. Okay, so my question is on April 1st in the Seattle Law of One group, you were there, you joined us, and we were honoring Carla and her passing, as you know, and you shared a lot of personal stories, which was very touching to the group, and we all enjoyed that session so much. However, since that session, I find something's been happening to me. Now, I personally listened to the Law of One on the audiobook, so your voice is very familiar with me. It's almost peaceful at this point, and I've listened to it so many times. However, somebody asked me about information and I wanted to go to the actual book. So when I went to the book, and I just, for some reason that day, I decided to read the introduction and everything, and I saw Carla lying on the bed and I just bursted into tears. I don't know where it came from. I just started bawling and I was like, oh my gosh, it's almost like I had recognized her sacrifice. Like everything just came rushing in at that moment. And I had been having this experience as well, where I've been opening up my heart to Jesus and letting Jesus in more, because I've been having some other experiences and I asked Jesus for help. And so I remember that being Carla. But what's been happening since that meeting is that I find Carla coming to me like in different messages and coming to me via videos and information and reading the Law of One. Like it's almost like her presence is more with me. And I remember you saying that, she shows up at every channeling and that she's there with you all the time. And I want to know, do you have an idea or any information in regards to if she's reincarnated as another being on Earth, or has she moved to 4th density, or is she back in 6th density? Like, what is the information that you've received? Because I feel like her presence is with the community of the Law of One, especially the ones that are really studying and moving up spiritually with this information.
I have heard from so many people around the world that they've made contact of one kind or another, or Carla's made contact with them.
Yeah.
And it's been so inspiring to hear that, because I know that is a continuing part of her spiritual journey. I think that for as long as the third density is, active here on planet Earth, that people who are interested in the law of one are very likely to have some kind of experience with Carla, whether or not they know precisely that that's Carla, or some spiritual being has blessed them in some way. And I think that's just part of her journey now. And that's something that I think is a beautiful thing. And I've been very honored to be part of that too.
Ginny in the chat says that just 2 days ago, some of our group members were saying that Carla visited them in dreams.
Like I say, I'm not surprised. I've heard so many stories like that.
Okay.
Do you still see her in dreams, Jim? Does she still come to you?
Not as often as she did the first year or so. I guess for the first year after she passed into larger life, I probably saw her in 100 dreams. Wow. And it's been dwindling off since then. But every time I engage in the channeling process, I always have ask her to be there. Mm-hmm. And occasionally I do still see her in dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Wow. Bharat Lakhani, he joined while our meeting was going on. Oh, Vaishali has a comment. Is it urgent, Vaishali?
Yes. He told me to ask question behalf of him, and I have a kind of same question and one more as well.
Thank you.
Is it okay to ask?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Jim. And Ginny Anecha, she's the one in our chat also. That's the Ginny, the one we had it. I'm sure you recognize her a little bit. So my question was very first, let me read it really quick from the chat box.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, right here. Do we start collective meditation session worldwide on the same time for Mother Earth evolution? Maybe this will be very biggest moment for each and every being of this planet. That's the first question.
Every night I have what's called the Gaia meditation. It's one of my meditations, and it's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Mm-hmm. And anybody in the world at any time can join that meditation if you make the intention that the meditation you are engaged in is the Gaia meditation to help heal Mother Earth. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've been doing for quite some time now. And I invite anybody who would like to join the Gaia meditation to do so. If you can do it at 7 p.m. Eastern time, that's great. If not, whenever you can do it, just make that your intention.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. And blessing of Creator, you told us, so we've been doing in our groups, and we share the whole the Gaia meditation in all groups, and we all do it at least one time, and the same time you are doing it, and we try to match the time. So yes, that's a blessing.
Well, thank you so much.
So 7 o'clock in the Louisville, Kentucky time, right?
Right.
Okay, perfect. So we'll match the time. In India, it's going to be 5:30, so we can do in the morning and the evening. Okay. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the second, sorry, is it okay to ask one more question?
Brittany Spencer was asking if that meditation is every day at 7, Jim.
Yes.
Every day. Okay, thank you. Go on. Please go ahead.
Okay. Just one moment. We had a recently expedition in our groups, and all of them came back from the expedition. And the question is why so many people in our groups in India are seeing crafts coming to their places after we went to the expedition, and now they are back home. Many are experiencing this effect actually, and they are like a light crafts, and they're blinking and trying to give us some kind of messages and something like that. So we just had a question that
you were seeing as you're making the expeditions, you're seeing craft.
Yeah, afterwards.
Yes, after coming back home in our groups, so many are seeing the crafts. So let me tell you the clear questions.
And
yes,
it was a spiritual expedition, I take it.
Yes, yes. The CE5, the contact meditation and stuff. Yes. Just recent. They just came back. Even Guinea and Asia, they went there in India in our group initiated, and everyone there went there.
Well, I think that's very inspiring. I mean, I can't explain
Yes.
it, tell you why it's happening,
Exactly.
but I think, keep doing that. Keep doing what you're doing.
Guinea, she can talk if she can unmute her. She went there. In fact, I'm here in US, but they went there, and we just sharing, and they are sharing our groups, all the experiences and the beautiful experiences going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can I speak? Guinea here.
Sure,
Yes.
go ahead.
Hi. So I'm Guinea, and if Jim remembers, we did a Q&A with him a couple of months back with the India group. And we just came back from the expedition. I just came back today. Some of them reached home yesterday. And we did that expedition to contact the Confederation, and everybody did group meditations every day that we were there. And yes, we saw some light beings and we did see some crafts. Actually, we're not just seeing crafts now that we have returned. We've been seeing crafts since the day we started reading Law of One. Law of One was introduced to me a year back by Kanishk Dev in India. And it was like a new world that opened up. And since that very day, everybody who is listening to Law of One, because many people go up on the terrace and listen, they take their phone there and they stand in the window and they keep seeing these lights blinking and whooshing past and all. So yes, we've been having that experience. And we've just returned today, and some of them reached yesterday. So they've been seeing the crafts. My question actually is, yes, we've been seeing the craft, but other than an appreciation or confirmation that, yes, we understand that you are trying to understand the creator, does it mean anything else?
I think it could mean whatever you think it means. Whatever intuition you have when you see the craft is something that is probably worth looking at and following. In general, I think it has the purpose of giving everybody who observes the craft a feeling of mystery and of inspired beings and a journey of seeking to join those beings in their journey. But how you do that, I think, is probably something that will be individual to you.
Okay, because what we see is not really a whole craft. What we see is just blinking lights going by, running by. I'd really like to see the craft. Sometimes I wonder why the crafts always land up in USA and not India. I would love to see them. I mean, when Kanishk sir talks about crafts, and when he says, "Oh, there's a craft," my question with him always is, I'm not interested in seeing that light up there. I want them to come down and talk to me.
Talk to us.
I would say be careful what you wish for. And
I want to sit across the table and have a conversation with
You
Ram.
want to talk?
all right, we're going to keep moving on. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice meeting with you again, Jim.
Yeah.
Good to see you again too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
After we get to Chuck, who always has great comments and questions. I think this one is on channeling, right, Chuck? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Actually, Susanna asked a similar question of how do you know you're channeling versus thinking? And I think that came from my own projection of how do I know that I'm getting a message from someplace else that I like to call intuition, but sometimes it really feels like, Chuck, listen up here. And I'm just curious, but your answer of just kind of going with the flow and you were getting messages and just saying them was very helpful. But if you have anything else to add, I'm curious. But before, I want to make one comment. I was sitting here a little while ago, and all of a sudden, I just got teary. I don't know exactly, and I started to think it's you, all of you. It's like the intention, just created this beautiful energy that really had an impact on me just sitting here. So I just wanted to share that for a minute. But yeah, Jim, if you have anything to say about any of that.
Well, I think that part of the energy that you felt from this group that brought tears to your eyes is a very real energy that groups can bring together when they have a purpose of a spiritual nature. Carla always said that the people that came to our channeling meditations had an important part to play in the channeling, in that they kind of gave that energy that was going to come through in the channeling a foundation to build upon, a matrix, you might say, to be part of. So each person comes with that desire to seek the truth, and to seek it together with other people is a powerful thing to do. And when there's channeling involved, it can also help the channeling to be better. And I think that's probably what you're experiencing, that kind of energy.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Jim, we're a little over time, our usual meeting time. Can you stay around for a little longer, or do you have to go at a certain time?
Well, I could probably stay a few more minutes. I do have some other things I need to take care of today.
Okay. Well, Jonathan is next with his question about one of my favorite topics, social memory complexes.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I think social memory complex is one of the coolest things that I've read in the Law of One. And so my question is, or set of questions is, having like listened to you all's podcast episode on social memory complexes, is there any addition? And that was like, I think four some years ago. Is there any additional information that you can talk about that either you've learned about social memory complexes, or either specific learning challenges that certain social memory complexes have, or even, I know in the law when they've talked about, they have even different learning aids and visual aids. So if there's any information that you can share about that you've even learned since that podcast episode on social memory complexes, would love to hear it.
Well, I don't think I have any additional information. What I was sharing at that time was pretty much everything that we had learned during the raw contact. And I think in general, social memory complexes are a stage of moving into unity with the Creator, because before we're members of social memory complexes, just as you and all of us here now would like to be, we are individual entities. We're a social complex, and we haven't yet made that graduation where we can become able to enter the fourth density, then join together all of the memories from all of our incarnations that we've ever had, so that everybody in the social memory complex can call upon all of those memories. It's a huge library of information in the way that they wish to be of service, because social memory complexes on the positive side continue to progress in their evolution by being of service to others. It's a choice that is made here in the third density, but once you're in the higher densities, it's a choice that's refined so that you can become more and more of service in whatever way you choose. And social memory complexes, some utilize the ability to send love and light to entities here on Earth or other third density planets. That's their service. Some become wanderers. Some become sources of information that are channeled. And I'm sure that there are other ways that I don't know about, but the whole way of social memory complexes progressing is to continue to be of service to others and to call upon all that information that we have. I mean, Ra had 6.5 million, in their social memory complex. So they had all that information to utilize in being of service to others. So that's basically what I know about that. I don't have any additional information, but that's basically the way it works. I think, I believe wrong.
Well, no, that's helpful, and even it makes sense that there could be you can have information overload, then trying to organize that information in a way where it could be of service, and I can see that. So that you answered the question. Thank you.
There was one other thing that might be helpful. Ross suggested that the Akashic records, which is really the same thing. It's everybody has every experience they've ever had recorded in the Akashic records. So the Akashic records of this planet is our potential social memory complex.
Oh, I'm getting distracted thinking of it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Thank you, Jim.
One more question.
Yeah, maybe this will have to be the last question, and it's good in a way because two people are asking about this topic. I will let Debarati Chatterjee ask her question because I think Don Adkins also was interested in it. Debarati, you in there?
She's
Yes, hello,
from our
hello.
group.
Yes, yes, yes.
There you are.
I'm from India. I'm from India. I'm very happy to hear. Thank you, all of you. Love and light to all of you.
Love and light.
Well, thank you. Love and light to you too.
She was asking, what is the difference? Can I ask you a question? Or do you
Yes, yes, yes.
He was asking, what is the difference between dimensions and densities?
Basically, there's no difference. Dimension is one term that's been used more frequently by other spiritual organizations throughout history. The reason that Ra used density was because they were talking about the amount of light that is in each succeeding dimension. There's more light, so each dimension is more dense with light. So they felt that density was a more accurate term to use, but they're the same thing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your answer.
Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Vaishali, you have something quickly?
Is it okay to, quickly. I'm sorry. The question was, so when we heard lots of, I'm sorry to ask about this question, but heard so many things. So when we see the craft, when we do channeling, or like when we in our meditative state, from the information come from the intelligent infinity, right? But what about if something come from the AI or something, and we have a quarantine around the Mother Earth? So how they manipulate the mind, like a dark energy, manipulate the mind in the Mother Earth? Something was coming in my mind, so I was just asking.
So are you asking about the fact that many of the craft are negative Orion entities?
Yeah, so see, how we, I mean to say, if the quarantine is hard and around our Earth, how they enter and manipulate the mind of the peoples?
There are what Ra called windows of opportunity that can be utilized by entities that are of a negative nature and are magically powerful enough to find those windows. Now, this is something that apparently Ra suggested the fourth density negative entities cannot do, but the fifth density negative entity that was attempting to stop the Ra contact was able to create a magical pathway through one of those windows that then could be utilized by fourth density negative entities. So that's the way the quarantine is able to be breached. And this is a process that Ross suggested was determined by a means of, let's see, the windows could not be discerned ahead of time. They had to be discovered in the present moment. And there was like a random number generator that Ross suggested caused the windows to be created at certain times. So no one knew what the window was or when it would be created. But if they were perceptive enough and patrolled the quarantine on their own, they could, if they were fifth density, they could perceive such a window and then become able to utilize it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I will let Mike have the last word. Mike started our group. We actually met with Mike first just when we started this group. Mike has a quick comment, a question that I liked.
It's a little tongue in cheek, but it's so cool that Carla has visited so many people in this group. And I was wondering, has Don ever visited anyone in this group? Because that's the guy I want to talk to. I want to pick that guy's brain. But Susanna says he reincarnated almost immediately. So maybe, Susanna, you have his email address. I could write it.
That's probably why you haven't seen Don, because as far as we know, he did reincarnate and became the son of a couple of very good friends of ours. And we were able to meet him, I guess probably 10 or 15 years ago. He lived here for a while with us. He had heard the idea that he was a reincarnation of Don Elkins, and he just sort of chuckled at it and said, what? But I'll have to say that this young man is a very beautiful soul. And when he was 5 years old, he was here at the funeral for his father. And later on, I took him to some land we had in northern Kentucky. And he was riding along in the passenger side of my truck. And he looked at these clouds going across the sky. And he said, those clouds aren't moving as fast as they look like they're moving because the earth is rotating on its axis. So he made a hand. His hand was the earth and the other hand was a cloud. And he showed how it was rotating. And I thought, that's interesting from a 5-year-old. And then he saw a jet plane flying across the sky. He says, do you know what holds that jet plane up in the air? I said, no. He said, there's more air pressure below the wings than on top of the wings. And that's why it can fly. And of course, Don was a jet pilot. So I thought, well, this may be Don Elkins.
And how old is he now?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I think he's 33 or so.
Wow.
He was born 13 months after Don passed away.
Wow. That sound is my jaw hitting the ground right now. But thank you so much for the meeting. And thank you, Greg and Peggy, for running such great meetings. I know when I first met you guys, I thought, well, maybe I could help run a group. But then when I met you, I'm like, no, this is your group. So you guys did such a great job.
Thanks, Mike.
And my game got rained out, so I got to join back.
Oh, wonderful. Well,
okay.
not good for your rain or your game, but
Good for us.
But good rain is good for us, yes, and good for Mother Earth right now. So, well, I want to just, I think we're going to call an end here so that we don't overstay our time with Jim. And we thank each and every one of you for joining. This has been a blessing, and it's such a blessing to have so many people who are all connected. We're all connected in that same heart chakra. So thanks again. And you want to end with a little prayer?
In Buddhist practice, it is always traditional to dedicate everything we do for the benefit of all, for ourselves and all beings. So I rejoice in everything that we created today, in everything we shared, and the love we generated. And I dedicate that to all beings everywhere who are suffering, all beings everywhere to grow and in love and light and to reach the harvest with us. We thank you.
Blessings. Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
My
Thank-
pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you
Jim.
so much. Love and
Love
light
you
to
all.
everyone. Love you all.
Thank everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Good to see you all.
Hey,
You
Stephanie.
too. Bye-bye.
Steph, oh, Steph.
Thank you.
Wanna say-
Hi,
Thank you.
I'll ask my
Bye-bye.
question next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.